actually will be interviewing as a team.
You are the best movers on the planet. So bro, what kind of muscles you have? No. Bro, what kind of patterns you have?
We're here to fuck shit up.
Episode 10, Movement Athlete Podcast. I'm Dr. Wes Hendricks.
I'm John Lindsay.
And we were just talking off the mic that we were going to talk about what did we decide on?
This is, I don't know what we're going to call it, but just kind of outfitting a home gym, training from home. Kind of how to outfit a gym / how to train from home.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are obviously been doing that the past 12, 18 months. So I know I gave up my gym membership. I still go to a gym in the mornings that I work at, but I used to go to a gym in the afternoons that I just have completely given up on that. And I love training from home. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate.
Did you actually had a gym membership?
Yeah, we had 2 gym memberships. One, and it was more just for the open space. And I like to kind of get out of, like, I could stay at work and do a session if I needed to, but I like to get home and,
People bother you at work too, probably, right?
a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say bother it. I'm asked questions and things while I'm at work. So it's nice to go to a different place where I can just kind of lock in and do my own thing and not have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But I've totally fallen in love with training it from home. So I think I have some of my best workouts here.
Well, I think the nice part about it is too, you're looking at it from a perspective of you're a homeowner. Congratulations on that. John's a
Thank you.
homeowner. So, he maybe has a little less limitations that maybe I have as living in an apartment. So, John also has come up with a very creative setup at his place. So we could talk about that too. And kind of how he outfitted it, what the thought process was when he got the home, because when you got it, that back area that you guys see most of John's Instagram videos did not look like what it looks like now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have a tiny, my wife and I live in a house that's probably 700 to 800 square feet total, but we're very lucky to have a nice outdoor space with about maybe 350 square foot courtyard. And it was just kind of a gravel, weedy, leafy area when we bought the house, but we were able to put down a concrete slab, a nice bit of space, and that allows us to do a lot of stuff. Set up a squat rack. Any sort of hand balancing is good to go there. We've got kettlebells out there. We've got a nicely strategically placed tree that allows us to hang up rings. And I just I tied some webbing to the tree. So if I want to take the rings off, I don't have to go all the way up into the tree to get them. It's kind of a quick release system. So it's a great space that we have, but we made it a great space. So I think a lot of people might not be aware of the opportunity their backyard or their living room or wherever could present or could have to be a gym. So
when you went to set up this home gym, what was the first thing, like priority number one? If you could only have one piece of equipment or one thing that you could set up back there, what was it?
So we moved from we lived in a carriage house before we moved in here 2 years ago. And we had a little bit of a backyard, but we shared it with the landlord. So it was kind of awkward to be back there. But we had rings, we had kettlebells, and we lived close to a big park here in Savannah. And so we would drag those out there all the time. But I wanted to get a squat rack and a barbell. And so I knew we needed a space that would be ideal for dropping a barbell and having a squat rack that could plant on there. So, I mean, we bought this place and I think we had about 2 months before we were going to move in. And so I was just staring at the photos of like, okay, we can get this amount of concrete slab laid. That's going to allow us to have a squat rack. It's going to allow like 2 to 3 people to work out there. It's going to be great. So I think having the squat rack / barbell was the biggest priority. Even though I don't use it a ton, it's just nice to have a barbell around too. I mean, you can do so much with it. So it's just a great tool to have if you got the space.
And do you have anything like, so this is a question I get a lot too, is what type of barbell should I get? Is yours anything fancy?
I have I think it's the cheapest Rogue one. So I didn't it's Rogue, so it's not the cheapest one by any means, but I want to say it was in the $200 range.
Okay.
And they on Rogue have I don't know what I think they call it the oxidized scale. And it'll show you, like, if you're going to have a barbell that's mostly used outside, like getting one that's on the higher end of this scale is ideal. And the cheapest one they make is on the higher end of that scale. So that's the main reason I got it, is I knew it was going to be outside 99.9% of the time. So I just wanted something it's going to hold up. The barbell is the one item I didn't mind splurging on. And it was just a little over $200, so not quite splurging.
So, well, I guess it depends on how frugal and non-frugal you're being, and we know you're pretty frugal.
That was actually splurging to me, but I knew, being my frugal self, I was like, all right, I can buy this now, or I can buy a shitty one and then buy another shitty one like 18 months from now and keep doing that. So I was like, I'll just make the investment now.
Good call. Because you leave the barbell out on that porch, do you not?
Yeah, it never really goes inside.
And it's holding up fine.
Yeah, it's perfect. I was actually spinning it the other day, wondering if it needed to be cleaned or something, but it's still in tip-top shape.
Okay, so that's also something to keep in mind. There's pieces of equipment you probably want to spend a little more on. Definitely the quality there. People complain a lot that Rogue is expensive. It is expensive, but every experience I've had with them, you're going to get what you pay for. You're not paying for something that you can. There's companies that are comparable, but it's definitely worth the investment, in my opinion, for most of their stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. And I've had enough of their stuff to know, okay, this is going to be quality and it's going to last. I'm not going to buy something that's maybe 5% cheaper and be like, I'm going to take a risk here and see if it's just as good. I know that's going to hold up and last. So my bumper plates and small plates are from there too, and it's because they spend all day outside. So I know they're going to hold up better than something a little cheaper you can just get on Amazon. Yeah,
and it's definitely because you have to have your stuff sit outside all the time. You put it in like a container or something, right? Like a weatherproof container.
The weights are in a like plastic storage, outdoor storage thing, yeah, but still totally exposed to the air.
Outdoor storage thing. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it definitely makes sense for your situation because you guys have such a small space to keep that stuff outside, because I don't think your wife would let you keep your bumper plates in the kitchen or the living room. So
probably not.
So it makes sense. But I've had people ask me, should I get bumpers, and there's really no point unless you're Olympic lifting, or in your case, doing stuff outside where it's not going to rust or they're going to hold up a little better. Same with the barbell too. If you're working out inside, there's nothing wrong. I've told people this before. There's nothing wrong with getting a cheap barbell. It's going to get the job done. Same with cheap weights. It's going to get the job done because most of the stuff you and I are doing and we're programming for our clients, is squatting, military pressing, maybe if we're feeling ambitious, a little bench pressing. That barbell is used probably more for mobility work than it is strength work over there. Is it not for you?
There it goes in waves. Sometimes it is. Sometimes I'm actually using it for a lot of strength work right now, like overhead pressing, squatting, stiff leg deadlifts, a lot of stuff like that. So it's, but I mean, I will do mobility work with it. Jefferson curls. I've done loaded pancakes with the bar on my back. Horse stand squats with the bar on my back. The barbell is truly a very universal tool. So if you have the space for it, I would highly recommend investing in one.
Yeah. So I think in both of our opinion, one of the top 3 things you'd want to start with would be barbell and squat rack. And John also has it's not a squat rack, they're squat stands, would we say? So they're just two non-connected pieces that you can also put in the corner. So very efficient space-wise.
Yeah, and that's something I think you can go cheap on. Like I bought that when I bought the barbell, so probably about 18 months ago, and it's showing a little signs of wear, but I mean, it's still going to last another probably 2 years, no problem. And it was, I think, $50 or $60 on Amazon, and it's very lightweight. So like the comparable Rogue one, I think is over $200, and it's heavy as shit. And it's not very storable. It's these are two separate pieces. These are two separate pieces. The Rogue one, I think, is one piece, so it's not you can't really like scrunch them together very well. This squat stand breaks into two pieces, and each of them probably weighs like maybe 10 pounds a piece. And you can store them side by side and shrink them down, and they store perfectly just up against our fence.
So I think Rogue does make a squat stand like yours too, but also it's like it can survive a bomb. Like it's massive. They're really wide base of support. It would take up a lot. It'd be an obnoxious amount of space in your backyard.
Yeah, I have to be able to. We're slowly running out of space storing this stuff, so the more storage oriented the stuff is, the better. So I mean, again, this was just a cheap one, $55-$60 off Amazon, and it's been holding up really well.
Yeah. So I think the other piece of equipment, you can go, what's the word I'm looking for? You can't go without. There we go. Gymnastics rings.
Oh yeah. And I get asked, this is a weird question, but I get asked not quite a bit, but enough to where it's resonated with me that people are asking me, should they get gymnastics rings or a TRX strap? And
really?
Yeah, and I guess so. And my answer is always, you can do on a pair of gymnastics rings, you can do everything you can do on a TRX strap. You cannot do everything on a TRX strap that you can do on gymnastics rings. And a TRX strap is like 3 or 4 times the cost of a set of gymnastics rings.
Is it really? I've never looked into
always go for the gymnastics rings. And they're super. This is how versatile gymnastics rings are. I've left mine in my tree for probably the past year. So gone through rain, all that stuff, lots of humidity, and they seem perfectly fine. Like they haven't been in the rain at all. So, and I think you can get a pair off Amazon or wherever for $35-$40. So unbelievably versatile tool.
So wait, you've left yours outside, or you bring the rings in?
So I used to take them off the tree when we were done with them.
Oh, okay. Yep, I understand.
On the tree.
Even
I used to take them off and just put them in the storage container, but now I just leave them up.
Even the wooden ring.
Even the wooden ring itself, yeah.
And what brand do you have?
It's an Amazon brand. I think it's like Garage Fit or something. It's one of if you search gymnastics rings on Amazon, it's probably the first or second hit. So
interesting. So that's really interesting because the jiu-jitsu Muay Thai gym I train at too, they got a bunch of rings, set them up outside, left them up outside, and like through like exposure to the rain, then the humidity, they all started splitting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
mine's connected to a tree, so it is shaded all the time. So maybe that could be helping it a lot. It's not getting a lot of sun exposure.
Okay, maybe that could be it.
But if you're connecting rings to a tree in your backyard, it's probably going to be shaded. So don't be afraid to leave them up for a couple days.
Yeah, and
it motivates me to get on them more because they're always just there.
Makes sense, and it's not a hassle to set it up either.
Yeah,
and you can set them up anywhere too. Most of the time, there's going to be a tree. So I've had the Rogue rings for probably about 10 years, and you wouldn't even know it. A question I get asked a lot, actually, kind of like you were saying you get asked the TRX question a lot. I get asked a lot the diameter of the rings. Does anyone ever ask you that?
Yeah, they have. And I know I originally bought my first set of rings were like the thickest ones possible.
Okay.
And I think I didn't even know there was you could buy different options there. And now that I know, I prefer the thinner ones. What about you?
I don't even actually know what mine are, but yeah, the mine are probably somewhere between super thin and super thick. I've used the super thick ones before, and there's like an argument for it's easier to set up a false grip, but just not comfortable for me. I like whatever my diameter is. I've gotten used to it over the last decade.
Yeah, I think what we have is I think it's 1.1 inch diameter or 1.25 are the two like standards, and the 1.25 is significantly. You're like, oh man, this is pretty thick. So
it's that much of a difference.
To me, it's noticeable. I mean, especially if you're doing anything like if you're doing weighted chins on that or something, you probably want whatever one you can grip the best. So I feel like I can grip a thinner one better. I may have tiny hands though, but I think anyone starting out if they're just getting into gymnastics work, I think the thinner ones would be more beneficial.
Okay. So we got the pull-up bar and the barbell, gymnastics rings. So then I would say the one other piece of equipment that probably isn't even necessary, so I'd put that as like a secondary thing if we're on like a very tight budget here, is a pull-up bar. And we could, I think both of us have doorway pull-up bars, do we not?
Oh yeah, I do. And whatever one you suggested to me, I don't know which one it is. That's another question I get asked all the time. Is where'd you get that pull-up bar? Because it adds an extra. I don't even know I think the brand is Ultimate Body something, but it adds that extra foot off the pull-up. So that's the one thing we do inside is if we're doing pull-up work, we set up the pull-up bar inside.
That's I should have gotten some sort of like affiliate marketing for that, because I think a lot of those are sold.
You easily could have, yeah.
I dropped the ball on that. I'm not as much of an influencer yet. But yeah, doorway pull-up bar is great because it's just more convenient to work chin-ups, pull-ups. Some of them, John's, I believe, and so does mine. It has this neutral grip setting or a neutral grip position. Yours has that, right?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, so you can do neutral pulling too, because just the variety in the hand positions is really good to strengthen different lines of tension, different muscles in the back for pull-ups, helps avoid overuse injuries. It's just a nice variety thing too. A nice hack you can come up with, and I'm sure people have seen it before, is just taking like a stick or a PVC pipe and putting it through the two rings. So it's like this makeshift pull-up bar. It's a little sketchy. You're getting a lot of extra grip strength with it too. But, if you're in a bind, it gets the job done more or less.
Yeah, totally. I like that. I do that outside sometimes too. If I just, for whatever reason, don't feel like going inside, we've got a nice strong wooden dowel outside that'll slip between the rings.
So the question I got a lot too, especially during quarantine, I hung my rings in my apartment, and I did this because the apartment that I lived in actually had there wasn't a single tree in the apartment, there's no trees in the apartment. Outside of the apartment, there were no trees, and there was a park probably like a quarter mile away, but to walk to a park every day would definitely starting to get a little annoying for me. And then people always, I feel like the way we train, it definitely generates, or people get interested with it. I get annoyed if somebody tries to talk to me about it. You seem to welcome it. So I like working out in the comfort of my own home so people don't bother me. So I actually got a ring mount from Titan Fitness, and it was one of the best investments I ever made. It was like $90. I just had to get a stud finder, found the stud in the ceiling. I don't know if it left much damage when I took it out, but I got my full security deposit back. So the landlord wasn't looking in the ceiling, because obviously how much damage is going to be put to the ceiling, I suppose. But definitely during COVID, during lockdown, it was huge to have that. It was super convenient.
That's all. Did you put it in this apartment?
I haven't put it in this apartment yet. And I feel like there was a reason why I haven't put it in this apartment. No, there's no reason why I haven't put it in this apartment yet. I think it's just now because I have gym access. So like I go to the gym too sometimes, depending on the schedule of the day, what I'm doing. And for whatever reason, I also haven't been, now that I'm reflecting on it, I haven't been using rings that much in the last couple cycles. So I haven't needed to do it actually.
Yeah, I've seen you doing weighted pull-ups on the at-home gym or the at-home pull-up bar.
Yeah, and that thing.
That's another good point. Like you're doing pretty heavy. Yeah, you're doing pretty heavy weighted pull-ups on that thing, and it doesn't seem to be breaking down at all. So it's crazy how durable
let's hope not.
cheap pieces of metal are. Yeah, that's a really good technology. If you haven't invested in a doorway pull-up bar, you definitely need to. And I know Wes shows it a lot, but he will. And he mentioned he had the ring set up, but I know prior to that, you would connect your rings to the doorway pull-up bar and do lots of stuff off there, right?
It wasn't exactly ideal, if you're doing ring chin-ups or one-arm chin-up work, because you don't have a lot of clearance. But 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So it's not the most perfect situation, but it gets the job done, and it's pushing me in the right direction. So I'm also 5'6", 5'7" on a good day, so I don't need as much clearance too. So that helps.
Yeah. Well, if you get the pull-up bar that has that extra foot,
Yeah.
you can do ring shins off that. I'm 5'11". I can do ring shins off that height. So if you're kind of that size person, like you're going to be able to clear it by getting, and you have normal size door frames. You can set up rings on there, and you can easily have clearance for that. But if you're hooking your rings up to that, you can also do a lot of other awesome stuff like ring push-ups, ring dips, ring rows. You can elevate your feet and make those push-ups and rows much harder. And then for some accessory work, some bicep curls, tricep work with the rings. That's all great stuff. Those rings truly are a really versatile piece of equipment. It's when I first got them, I thought, okay, this is just for pull-ups and me attempting to get muscle ups. That's it. But it's awesome what you can do with those things.
Yeah, you honestly, I honestly, we were talking about the TRX earlier. They've got some decent exercises on there too. If you've ever seen any, like, they also have some ridiculous ones, but like they cover a lot of things that you just named that you would do on the rings that I feel a lot of times people don't even think about, like especially the tricep press and the bicep curls on rings. When I give that to remote clients, they're just like, why did I never think about doing this on rings? So it really is, especially for the upper body. You can get a really solid workout, not even like this scaled or regressed kind of getting something done because I'm at home and I don't have access to machines. Like you can get a legitimate training session in with just that doorway pull-up bar in the rings, and just using the pull-up bar as that anchor.
Yeah. When my wife and I travel, we always take a set of rings. I will probably do a how to train while you're traveling show at some point, but just having those rings for upper body work, we're good to go. I mean, we'll kind of deload our sessions, make them a little easier, but it's get 3 or 4 exercises on a push day, 3 or 4 exercises on a pull day, and that's all you need.
So I actually have a question. When you travel with them, do you when you travel, do you like check a bag or do you just do carry-ons?
More often than not, we fly American and we can get a free check bag, so we'll always check a bag. But I'm trying to think,
Okay.
I've probably slipped those in a carry-on before. I mean, I'm sure there was a time I went to like my grandparents' house or something, and I slipped them into I gave up bringing nice clothes to church, and I brought the rings instead or something.
Have you ever had an issue with it at security?
Oh yes, I did once because they were so I guess I have now that I think about it because the chalk on the rings, they were like they had to do a little I
Oh,
don't know
really?
bomb test or something. Yeah.
um, so I never check a bag. I always just do a carry on because it's easier. And when I was working for that one company where I taught seminars and they flew me around, I only did it a few times, but I started to figure out if I was going to bring my rings with me, to take them out of the backpack and like, you know how most backpacks have like the front of that, like, I don't want to call it like a fishnet, but like a mesh compartment that you can, like, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would
The
put
grab and go or whatever.
yeah. So I'd put the rings in that so they could physically see the ring so they wouldn't have to pull the bag out. But every time without fail, if it's inside of like my like little suitcase or in the backpack, it's getting pulled out of security. So just my experience. Maybe a little airport hack there for traveling with the rings if you're going to take them somewhere. All right. So
Yeah.
we've got the rack, we've got the rings, doorway pull-up bar. Honestly, I think that takes care of 85% of a standard home gym. I know you mentioned those change plates. What weight increments do you have of those change plates? Because I think those things can serve a really good purpose for a lot of like rotator cuff exercises.
So they go, I'm trying to think of the total weight. It's in kilograms, but there's there's pairs of all what I'm about to name. 5, 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1, and 0.5. So whatever that adds up to is the total weight. And those aren't cheap. I will say that, but okay. They look cool. They're very durable. It's Rogue, so it's very quality stuff.
I love the first quality was they look cool.
Yeah. Unlikely they'll ever break. And if you're someone like me who I had 205 pounds in bumper plate weights, I didn't need to get another 45 or anything like that. they were perfect for me, and they have served what Wes is probably going to dive into. They've served as great work for accessory drills for anything from upper body to lower body stuff.
Yeah, because you especially with like external rotation work, Cuban rotations, trap threes, you don't need a lot of weight. Like 5 kilograms is pushing it for most of those. You don't even need and you don't even need those weights attached to a handle, to be totally honest. Just hold on to the freaking weight plate. They're not that, the diameter on them is pretty narrow. So you can, I don't care how small your hands are, you're going to be able to grab a weight plate and use it for external rotation work. So it serves multiple purposes there. And do you have dumbbell handles that you attach those to?
I don't. You can buy those. I have a cheap pair of changeable dumbbells though. I think they're Amazon brand and they were like $30. And that's another thing I've had for probably over 2 years and they've held up incredible. And I think it's 40 pounds total, or no, 50 pounds total. So you can have 50 on one dumbbell or 25.
So literally the amount of equipment we've gone over right now, it's funny, takes up 300 square feet of your backyard. They're
not stored, not even. Like
yeah.
It's a tiny amount of space. I'll have to do a little video of like here's
you use it in a 300 square foot space, and it's essentially a full gym. That's what I think makes this type of training so what's the word? I don't want to use the word awesome because I feel like I could come up with a better word than awesome, but that's all that's coming to me.
Sustainable, maybe. Like it's versatile. It's you don't have an excuse not to do it. You're gonna.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think you came up with some great descriptor words there, but I think it just comes down to you don't have an excuse not to do it. You don't want to go to the gym. People bother you. You have to schedule a time to go to the gym. You don't want to work out in a mask. You really don't need that much space to get it done. John's doing it in a 300 square foot backyard. During COVID, I was doing the same thing, or during lockdown. I keep saying COVID or quarantine, whatever. I was getting the training sessions done in my probably 550 square foot apartment. You don't need a lot of space to do it. I think the last piece of equipment I'd probably include in this, and it's just something I just recently got, is dip bars. You know what I'm talking about? Like those separate dip bars where they can, which ones I'm talking about? Like giant parallel bars, basically.
I don't think I've seen you post about those, no.
No, I haven't even. I'm looking at the box on the other side of the kitchen. I haven't even taken them out of the box yet.
Oh, damn, nice.
Yeah, but they're just like parallel bars, but they're like parallel bars that are like 30 inches high. So you can do.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so they serve two main purposes. The first one, I can do dips on them because honestly, dips I think are a super beneficial body weight exercise that have carryover to a lot of other movements. I know you've been training them a little more recently, but they're great. And I don't know if you've seen me posting on my stories trying to do dips where I have my parallel bars and I have one P-bar on my dresser and I drag. Yeah. It's I'm doing dips with 90 pounds and it's still holding up actually. But I dropped one of the dumbbells on the tile the other day in the bathroom. I'm lucky it didn't break.
Yikes, yeah.
So I
put
just
a pillow down.
Yeah, well, I got the dip bars, so it's not going to be a sketch anymore. They were like $80 off Amazon, but the other purpose they serve, which I'm even more excited about them, is that I can do lever work on them. So I don't know if you've ever seen people do. Have you seen people do lever work on them? Yeah. And it's just so much more convenient because you can really focus on setting the scapula, setting your hip position, and just getting right into it, as opposed to on a pull-up bar or a high pair of rings. You have to get your hips up there. And then it's like, are my hips level with my shoulders? I didn't really set my scapula. How do I open up my hips if I'm trying to advance it? Which is a skill in and of itself that needs to be trained if that's part of your goal. But I think the P-bars, they just serve that purpose too. So it's going to make, I'm excited to see how it's going to make my lever training different. And for $80, and once again, they're kind of like your squat stand where I can put them together and we have a really big walk-in closet. I just put them in the back.
It's two separate pieces.
Yeah. So, and they're
perfect,
not, they're not connected or anything. So I can just put them in the back of the walk-in closet. And honestly, I can't, the only other thing, like if I'm going through a list of equipment here, the only other two pieces of equipment, in my opinion, that you could really get value out of, but if let's say, you really wanted to get some cool things for the house, we got a little more of a budget. The other two things that I would say is in different companies make it. It's literally an a cable system that you can, loop over a doorway pull.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can loop it over a doorway pull-up bar, and you can just do cable exercises, whether it be, curls, tricep press downs, pulls, so different rows, lat pull downs, so horizontal and vertical pulling. And really the main benefit there from my perspective is it's a different strength curve, as opposed to like, you curl a dumbbell, the weight's going to be heavier at the bottom. And as you come up, that strength curve is it's going to get easier typically. But the cable, it's going to to simplify it here, it's going to maintain tension across the entire range of motion. So there is some benefits with those cables, and they're like $80-$90 off of some of these websites. So like it's a nice tool to have. So a little more variety too, because it's fun to throw those things in here or there, to increase training morale if need be.
Yeah, especially if you already have some plates, a decent amount of weight, like not even a decent amount of weight, maybe 50 to 100 pounds of plates. You're going to be able to get a nice, you're going to be able to do a bunch of exercises with that tool Wes just described. Yeah.
And then the last one, just because I really find it to make a difference, but it's not cheap, is a Nordic curl bench. Yeah, it's definitely one.
Yes, I was going to ask you, how do you suggest doing Nordic curls?
Because honestly, you can come up with some creative ways to do Nordic curls at home. Some of them are better than the others. Some are better than others. But, without fail, whenever one of my clients or one of the people on the training app get on an actual Nordic curl bench, they're like, holy shit, this is like night and day difference. Because the ability to have your feet super secure, like super secured, as opposed to some sketchy setup, allows you to actually open up the knees more and load the hamstrings more. The downside of it is you have this piece of equipment that really just serves one purpose, whereas everything else we covered,
it's pretty heavy duty.
No, it's super heavy duty. It's for one purpose and one purpose only. Whereas, everything else we covered, there's numerous exercises you can do between upper and lower body day. This thing takes up a lot of space and lets you train Nordic curls, but it lets you train Nordic curls well, I will say.
You'll probably get Nordic curls faster if you have the bench.
I actually would almost make that claim, just because having your feet secured really makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So with that said,
I train that off stall bars at work, and it's, I think, a similar locked-in position. Yeah. Like it's
you're pretty close with that, honestly.
It's night and day. It's night and day that versus like someone holding my feet.
Oh yeah, holding the feet doesn't work. Trying to get them under a barbell or doing them just like on a weightlifting bench really doesn't work. The stall bars works pretty good. I have, if you've seen how I normally do them at that one gym I go to, I have one of the Rogue split squat pads that I anchor my feet under. That works pretty well from the Nordic curl videos I post. But I will say, in my experience, once again, it's a tough one. Rogue's definitely has the best Nordic curl bench. During quarantine, I got the Titan Fitness one because it was significantly cheaper. It was awful. I got rid of it immediately. Actually, it took up too much space in my apartment, and it sucked. It didn't secure my feet very well.
So I guess you got that. Maybe you told me about that. You got that, and so I looked it up on Amazon.
Yeah.
And do you know a guy on Instagram named Taylor Starch?
That sounds so familiar.
Well, anyway, I follow him, so I knew who he was. And he had written like one of the top reviews, and he gave it 1 star and then like ranted about how bad it sucked. And it was so funny because I knew him, and I was like, oh, well, I'm not getting this.
No, it was terrible. Well, my problem was, so the benefit of the Nordic curl bench is that it really secures your feet in there well. Rogue's roller pads on the back have lots of different adjustments, so you can really get your feet freaking tight in there, right? And nice. The tighter you can get your ankles, the more you can load the hamstrings. Titan Fitness's lowest setting on the bench, like there was like a foot gap between my calves or my like Achilles and the roller pad.
Oh, yikes.
So like it wasn't doing anything. And granted, I don't have I have pretty small calves, but like it wouldn't have really mattered. There was that much freaking space. So I was just, I just need to get rid of it. So I've used Nordic. I've used Rogues before. It's phenomenal. Another brand that's equally as good from my understanding and maybe a little cheaper is Serenix or however you say it. They make quality
Yeah.
stuff too. So I would check out theirs. And then there's some other companies out there that make them, but they're even more expensive than a Rogue.
Really?
Just get the Rogue one. That's the only other thing I would get for an apartment gym, a home gym, outside of everything we listed. But once again, that one's a little pricey and serves one purpose. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you would add here?
Well, I would say, like I said, I do Nordics off stall bars. So if you had the space and you probably wouldn't want to put stall bars outside, but if you had the space inside to put up stall bars, I know Vita Vibe sells like a thin one that's only like maybe 18 inches across, and you could easily set up Nordics there. And then stall bars are awesome for a number of things too, setting up bands for various stuff. So, and probably comparable in price to the Rogue Nordic bench, maybe cheaper.
Well, honestly, it's funny that you bring that up because stall bars, depending on the brand you get and the add-ons, you can take those stall bars that you mount in like a lot of people mount them in their apartment. Like Sean has one mounted in his apartment in Boston. There's another guy I follow. I don't know where he's from. Simon, not Monster, not him. But this other guy I don't know. He doesn't speak English. And I'm sure you follow him too. He uses stall bars, but he also uses it as a squat rack, and he has hooks for the barbell that go in there.
I've seen that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So like you can use it as like a squat rack. His has a pull-up bar attachment on it. I have some clients that have stall bars and that has a dip bar add-on. So that stall bar, depending on the add-ons you get, could be like a full functional gym that's mounted on your wall, and as long as you have the support system to support it, works really well because pull-up bars, dips, squat rack, basically what John and I, everything we rattled off, it could be used on that for probably, I can't imagine, more than $1,000. You have a full gym.
Yeah, usually like a decent pair of like a Vita Vibe, which is a good P-bar stall bar brand. I think their full size stall bars are maybe $400, so I can't imagine all those attachments would be more than $600.
And it's another space saver if you're not in a large area. Maybe I'm looking around my apartment here. Maybe I'll just put in stall bars.
Yeah,
Steph,
they won't leave that big of a hole.
No, they won't. I think we'll be good.
Yeah, you could leave them and say you added value to the apartment when you left, and maybe they'll pay you for it.
I like how you thought about that because I would have never twisted it in my favor like that. We leaving anything else here?
I think that's pretty good. I mean, when this comes out, I'll do a IG story or something, just going over the stuff in my apartment. But I think just a quick recap: if you're cramped on space, and you're just gonna be inside, get a doorway pull-up bar, get a set of rings. If you have room, you can add the squat rack that stores really easily. Just get a cheap one off Amazon, get a decent barbell, get a couple plates. You probably don't need more than 200 square feet tops, maybe even less than that, to get a really, really solid workout in.
I think that's good. I guess the only other thing I'd add in, not really a workout accessory, but I definitely want one, an ice bath, just because you're using it all the time, so I'm kind of jealous. I don't know.
It's addicting. Once you get cold, you're gonna do it again. So, but start with cold, throw some ice in your bathtub, and you'll be good.
The water just doesn't get that cold. And what? Let's get a shout out here. What brand do you use? Because it seems to work really well.
It's the Ice Barrel is the name of it.
The Ice Barrel. Okay. Yeah,
and if you use Movement 75, no spaces, you'll get a little discount. So. Damn!
Wow.
It's pricey. It's pricey, but if you're into ice baths, it's worth it.
And so when you use that though, so do you have to empty it every time? Do you feel like, how does it work? Or
no, I fill it up every 2 months. I drain it and empty it, and I do put some hydrogen peroxide and Epsom salt in it,
Okay.
but that stuff's like it's $2 worth of stuff every time tops. I have to fill the ice up every time though, except in the winter. In the winter, there was lots of days where I could hop in there and it'd be 35, 38
Oh,
degrees. So
that's awesome. So
yeah.
do you just put a lid on it and it kind of keeps the temperature at a steady temperature?
It's usually it's humid here right now, and it's probably at like 74 degrees right now. So it would take me 4 bags of ice, $2 a piece, $8 to get it down to about 48, 45 degrees, and that's cold.
No, yeah, that's cold.
That's a fun stimulus. So
That would do the job.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, not necessarily they're the ice bath guys, but definitely just something cool.
Yeah.
I'll let you wrap it up here because you're so good at it.
Yeah, guys, this was episode 10. If you haven't given us a rating, a review, a download, a subscribe, all that good stuff, please go do so. It really helps us out. Share on IG stories when you're listening. We'll definitely repost it. Just help us grow the podcast. And if you've got a topic you'd like us to hit on, feel free to send us a message on Instagram to myself or Wes, or if you have a guest you think would be dope to have on, send us their name as well. We're going to start having some guests on here soon. So yeah, look out for the next podcast and keep listening, guys.
You always crush those enders. I love it.
Just flow state.